President Zelensky of Ukraine has said that Donald Trump's plan for Ukraine and Russia to effectively freeze where they are right now in terms of current front lines is a good compromise. But what does Vladimir Putin make of that? Let's speak to Mark Urban, who is the presenter of Global's Crisis Room podcast, which you really should listen to. It's available on the LBC app. Afternoon to you, Mark.
Good afternoon.
Did you always expect we would get to this position that Vladimir Zelensky, who at the beginning obviously said we will not give up a single mile, is now saying, OK, as much territory as you have encroached upon over the last however many years it is now, you can have it?
Well, is he saying that? You see, the language here is very important. A lot of the diplomacy that's gone on the past year or two as people have looked for a way to try and bring this to a halt has been based on the assumption that the forces might stay where they are when the guns fall silent, which is more or less what you're saying and what he's saying.
Yeah. But
Ukraine will not give up its sovereignty, its insistence that this is Ukrainian land. Yes, the Russians are occupying almost a fifth of the country at the moment, but they will not give up the land. And what Zelensky has said many times as well is, I'm constitutionally forbidden from giving up. And indeed, of course, he's telling the truth. That is in the Ukrainian constitution. So he can't do those sort of deals that Putin and a lot of the people around him would like to do. So the bigger question is, if he's now embracing this kind of language, and I think it was at least a year ago that I remember hearing him saying to the Ukrainian public, honestly, we don't have the military means to liberate all that territory. So in a sense, he was trying to prepare the Ukrainian public even then.
That they would lose something.
Well, that the Russians would remain occupiers in certain parts of the country. So that's the key question, is how do you formulate this? Of course, the Russians will claim, it's all been through the Russian parliament, the Duma, to bring these regions of Ukraine into Russia, including those two key ones, Luhansk and Donetsk, in the east of the country, which Russia has long tried to claim. Even since 2014, they've been involved militarily in there, trying to get those two regions. Now, so that's the question. Russia has to basically accept that their parliamentary votes and everything else on this are meaningless, that this is just accepting things as they are. It does not give them the legal right to that land. And then it's a goer.
But Vladimir Putin is not interested, is he, really, in this current... I mean, we don't know, do we? Because the meeting's on, it's off, it's on, it's definitely off. So we don't really know what he thinks, do we?
Well, one of the reasons the meeting is off is his foreign minister, Sergei Lavrov, had this conversation with the American Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, and I think it was meant to, in some ways, prepare the ground. That's what you do if you want to get some positive result out of a summit. You've got to make sure you can agree on something. And then Lavrov started coming out with this stuff, which was basically about regime change in Kyiv. And clearly, I think at that point, the Americans said, this is ridiculous. What you try and do when you come to a settlement or stop a war is to move the two sides closer and closer to one another's positions so that they can both accept it, even if they're not wildly happy about it. And there's Lavrov stating things that basically they would have stated, on the 22nd of February 2022 or something, before the tanks rolled in. Well, so for that reason, the summit's off. That is, your question is the sort of $64,000 question in a way. I mean, is Putin really going to cleave to these fundamentalist objectives, which will mean that there is no ceasefire, let alone a broader peace agreement? Or is this some kind of very tough negotiating position in which he says, look, we'll bank the land that we already occupy because Trump's already conceded that point, and I'll go for other things, and he has to be forced back in negotiation from some of those other positions.
Just a final question, and briefly, if you can, how do you notice any kind of feeling that the Americans have they changed their tack at all when it comes to trying to negotiate between President Putin and President Zelensky, because they may be buoyed by what they managed to achieve in the Middle East?
Yeah, I mean, look, Trump, I think, likes the idea that he's on a roll, and I think that's perhaps why he entertained this idea of meeting Putin in Budapest. That's not going to happen now. The other thing that's significant that's been going on the last couple of months is the Americans have apparently been giving a lot of intelligence to Ukraine so that they can hit Russia's energy sector more effectively. That's really interesting as a thing that's been going on, covertly while Trump says what he says, whatever it is today, is they are definitely trying to raise the pain level for the Russians. And that, of course, contributes to the president's idea of let's do a deal.
Okay. You might want to stay there, Mark. Thank you for the moment. President as well. You can be the president of Global's Crisis Room podcast if you want. It's available on the LBC